If they can't compel you by anti-Semitism, right, to shut the F up, they send the Jewish Defense League to shut you up. Right? They are a branch of Mossad. The Mossad is the branch of CIA, KGB, MI5. They all were in on creating Mossad. Right? They create these intelligence networks. This is to pass information clandestine, and they use public means. Like when you watch spy movies, especially in the 70s, you used to see the spy grab the newspaper and he would extract the code from the newspaper. And regular people would just read the story and never know it was a code in it. That's how they do, because they trade in secrets on a network that requires you to know certain code cracking techniques.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
If you know the page, you'll know who they talking to.
Wow. And you know what that reminds me of? Like Morse, to me, it reminds me of like a combination between Morse codes and like the Medu Neter or any type of sacred, you know what I'm saying, encrypted system of communication.
It is. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Just like the Odu of Ifa or Medu Neter of Kemet, you know what I'm saying? Like all of these are secret binary, or Odu is binary, but all of them are secret encrypted codes. And if you don't have the access code to get into, you know what I'm saying, manipulating that modality of communication, you ain't gonna be able to read nothing. But if you have it, you can read it all.
The same thing actually translates even with the sports as a codex.
Yeah, you don't talk about
that. Everything within the Metatronic overlay is a codex. Just like when you look at OKC versus the Pacers. What is the Pacers? The horse. 2026 is also the year of the horse. And that's also the same year that they say that the Golden Gate Bridge is going to collapse, because they just came out with a news, article that was talking about it on YouTube, how, they're looking at, many different, afflictions, talking about the Golden Gate Bridge is going to collapse during that time period, because the Golden Gate represents the galactic center. And it represents, the 9/11, ritualistic events, the tire moments of everything that's going to be facilitated by Donald Trump, because he's an agent provocateur, chaos agent. So
he's
everything.
The liquidator in chief.
Facts. Yep. So the signs and symbols is not only subjected to as far as like the political apparatus, but you can see it in what's going to be taking place. You can see it in the movies. You can see it in sports. Everything is symbolism, and the symbolism for what is to come as far as their sustainable development goals and going into the future.
Yeah, that's deep. Hey, let me ask y'all this, because I see, and it's been multiple comments too. Shout out to the tribe, man. I appreciate everybody. We like 1,600 deep in this thing right now. Shout out to everybody who's showing up and showing out. But they've been talking about, and I've heard about this too. What do y'all have on the Job Corps situation? Because they definitely, they closed down a lot of the Job Corps. You know what I mean? And then I saw somebody said, what do y'all think is going on in these Job Corps centers? So shout out to Yasuki and Young Hitters. They both commented on that.
So you got to know the origin of Job Corps. Job Corps was never intended for none of us. Job Corps was a way to catch errant Caucasian youth and give them a segue into military-style living.
Wow.
So that they can matriculate them into the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. What happened is that we begin to get the information from relatives that lived around them, that the pale people were sending their children to Job Corps, and they was being paid as teenagers, 12, 13, 14 years old, all the way up to, I think, 17 at that time, and eventually moved up to 21. And then they was able to learn a trade, a skilled trade, because remember, they took the skilled trades out of inner city schools. There's no skilled trades in inner city schools anymore unless somebody revived the program somewhere. So they had to make sure when segregation became integration, that they had a way to sheep dip their children, funnel them out of the system to try to turn them into soldiers. In their youth, they wanted them to be like Michael Samuel from the Femme Nikita show. But when they become seasoned in their old age, they want them to be Victor Newman off the soap operas. Right? And the balance between the two, from being a young stone cold killer to a business mogul. You're a warrior in war, and you need war strategy in the boardroom. So you become the master strategist. Right? So Job Corps begin to start busting at the seams because there was so many entrants when other communities got wind to this was a good way to get skilled trades for our sons. And a lot of us didn't operate well in high school, because we got beef with them dudes over there. We can't get along with them other dudes over there. We haven't learned the social skills of communication to the point where we can go talk to them dudes over there to find out why we even got beef. Because we might not supposed to have beef, might have been told to have beef by somebody that ain't us.
That's a real thing.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and it started busting at the seams, they're going to eventually shut that avenue off because there's more people benefiting than the original intended purpose of the benefit.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different I feel like there's a lot of different factions in society that operate that way as well. It's like they'll have things or let things go to a certain extent, but then once we get wind of it, once we learn how to figure it out, then it's like Operation Shutdown, because like it's only designated for a selected, I guess, group or few.
Do you know why?
I got an idea, but I'd rather you go ahead and share with us.
Institutional control.
Yep.
Control the institutions, you drive the society wherever you want it to go. That's how a 60-pound bulldog can flip a 2,000-pound bull.
Yep.
Right? Yep. Flip, you change the center of gravity to your angle using the social layout. You lay the society out by systems. You give the illusion of power and control you got that from Machiavelli. You give them uniforms. The uniforms give you the appearance of legitimacy.
Commercial.
And just because they got a uniform don't mean they blow here.
What and does that not symbolize something what we just saw with them with the inside job political hit with the folks up there in Minnesota that just got whacked? That sounds like the same thing you're talking about right now.
Really a deep state war. Deep state versus the black hats versus white hats. That's all it is.
No, that's
a civil war on the inside of the bitch ass corporation.
Which also happened on No King's Day.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Not a coincidence.
And was that not the night after the strawberry moon?
Yeah.
What do
because
we have here?
it's a representation of moonfall. The sleep spell is starting to, be manipulated.
That's also a series on was it Netflix, Moonfall?
Yeah. Yep.
Remember really and in there the key character meets Tawaret, Big Mama.
I had to check that. I never saw it. I'm gonna check that out.
I've seen it one time, but I did a breakdown on it.
It's a series.
Series? Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
What I'm talking about is a series.
Oh, there's a series. Okay. But yeah, in the movie, it really just shows you that, the moon is really a celestial megastructure. That's all it was basically demonstrating.
A big ass spaceship.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he told Zulu mythology, Credo Mutwa, he'd tell you in the inception of time, it wasn't no damn moon. All you had was gray skies.
That's the Lilith story from the Hebrews.
Yeah.
When our night sky was lit up with the light from the moon Lilith, which is the moon of Saturn, we was in a different orbit for one.
Okay.
And what they call the asteroid belt was part of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
This was when it was Tiamat, right? It was like 2/3 the size it is now.
Facts.
And the part that's knocked off of it became the asteroid belt,
Mm-hmm.
which is part of the war with the Maldekians from Mars. From I think it was the moon of Mars the Maldekians come from, Europa,
Yeah,
the
because
frozen moon.
that's what caused that big gash in the Grand Canyon, if I'm not mistaken, right? Parts of some of the ships or parts of some of the
The
there was
Grand
like some
Canyon was carved out with water.
so that didn't happen from
When the
go ahead.
original Temple of Isis was there, it was a water world.
Mm-hmm.
All of those temples sit above the canyon, right? But as the waterfall, they begin to build caves in the sides of the canyon.
Mm-hmm.
And by looking at the caves that's built in the side of the canyon, and then you can actually see the strata as the water receded over time.
Mm-hmm.
So that sounds just
Right.
like the in Kemet.
California was an island until they blocked off they built a dam, but it don't look like a dam. It just looked like a bunch of rocks at a coastline.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was like a river, it was like a river between mainland America and California. That's why they keep thinking it's gonna fall into the ocean, but it's not gonna fall into the ocean. That dam got a lifespan. When that dam break, that water coming back, and it's gonna look like California back in the ocean, the island again.
Yep. Y'all watch that movie? What was it? Escape from LA.
Yeah.
They show
And
you.
I was just watching the fight for is it called the Battle of Los Angeles or the Fight for Los Angeles, something like that. I was just watching that yesterday, and I was looking at and peeping the symbolism that was in that movie as well. And it's really, to me, I feel like that one came out in 2011. They're literally showing us right now, like they prepared that movie for what's happening right now. That movie came out in 2011, but right now they're talking about everything that's happening now in 2025.
They show you in Terminator Genesis too, when John Connor comes back from the future and fights his old self, and it takes you all the way in between the years of 2027 to 2029. So this is also in alignment with the prophecy of popes, because the allegory is 2027 is the so-called end of the world, which is not really the end of the world. It's really just a shift in power. So it's the end of the age. So it's the end of the 6,000 verification period of the beast system.
End of the cycle. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's deep. That's real. Okay, so now there's so much going on. So now when it comes to does the ice raids and all this bullshit that they're doing with the Mexican and Spanish people, whatever, like does all that kind of play into what we're experiencing now? Or how, like, what does that have to do with any of this? Or does it have anything to do with any of this?
That's all of the theatrical enactment of what energies is being utilized.
So pretty much to keep your attention to that instead of what's really happening.
Yeah. Not just so much of that. You got to look at the players in the activity. Right? You can't believe it's real if you have chaos on one coast and a parade on the other coast.
Right.
Make that make sense.
Right.
Make that make sense. Please make it make sense for me.
No, but that's considered the twin pillars.
Yep.
The riots is symbolic of the fall of California.
Yep.
Right? The fall of Hollywood, Petalwood.
Yep.
The military parade is basically an invasion of the republic to seize the corporation and to show a sense of a presence of force to the ones that's trying to resist. You're gonna get down or you're gonna lay down.
Yep, it's really
now when you say, go ahead, Vito.
Now I was just telling you, everything they're doing is really causing chaos to create technocratic sorcery, because they want to build smart cities in LA by 2028.
Yeah.
So that's the main goal. So a lot of these people are really agent provocators. They being paid $200 to mess up, everything at these protests. $200 a day.
We still can't get none of the people to tell us why every time they tell us it's going to be a riot, is it pallets of bricks strategically located at the riot sites?
But is that not the same what they're doing in Chicago? I don't know if they still are, but they were like leaving cars with like literally cars with guns and all kind of ammo and all that, like just laying like leaving them in the street so brothers can get hold of them and go to war with each other. Is that not the same thing?
Yeah. It's called Black Box Enterprise. It's based out of a California thing when they was putting them black boxes in California. And storage boxes, just dropping them on the street. And the kids was finding out what was in them because they wasn't locked. And then they go back, told their big brothers, and they said, let's get money.
You know the main reason why they do that shit in Chicago, though? Because for one, Chicago's an energy center. Oh, yeah. And that's where a lot of master teachers come from. And it's also in alignment with the Big Dipper star constellation. So the reason they put those guns out there like that, they know that Chicago is like one of the poorest school systems in the school union. And that there's not a lot of lucrative job opportunities. So it's kind of like one of those things that kind of keep you, you know, economically disenfranchised. It's a destabilization war tactic. Yeah. To keep you fighting amongst each other so you don't have a so-called rise of a, you know, black messiah. Because like places like St. Louis, Chicago, Philly, Detroit, Detroit, these are all energy centers. Harlem. All in alignment with, you know, the Big Dipper star constellation.
So that tell you right there what you just said, B-Dale. That tell you unequivocally that we've been walking in them centers on that energy for thousands of years because we always knew the energy centers was there. Facts. This is why we got mounds everywhere. Facts. And then the mounds is how we know that it's sacred ground.
Yeah, because Cahokia is right there in Illinois, which is not too far from Chicago, correct?
Yeah. Then you got Carbondale, Illinois, because when you look at the word carbon, and then you got Little Egypt, and then it's the 618 area code. 3 6 together is an 18. So they already know what's going on. They just tell you through signs and symbols. You got to understand the codes, just like, you know, Big Chief was talking about. You got to understand the symbolism. Everything's right in your face already. You just got to understand the codex. And that's because anything that's especially on that landmass right there, that's also where the New Madrid fault line, where they had that 2023 solar eclipse at, which was the black sun that represents that anarchy symbol, which was the Antichrist sigil or whatever. There's many different ways to look at it. It's a multi-dimensional symbol, but
it's also the Alpha and Omega.
Yep, the 19, right? Or even when you look at it from Kemetic spirituality, it's a representation of the crook and the flail, or Aries and Libra, right? It's the same thing. A lot of people are just not understanding the codex because those signs and symbols also correspond with numerical sequences. So a lot of times the thing is, when they see numbers, you're really seeing letters, and when you see letters, you're really seeing numbers. That's all it is.
Can you say that again for the people in the back, B-Dale? I get it, but I think like that was dope.
No, I was saying like a lot of times when you see letters, you're really looking at numbers, and when you're looking at numbers, you're really looking at letters. It depends on how they give it to you. Just like when you go to a lot of these downtown monuments or whatever, you got these monolithic structures downtown, and they got like time capsules. Those time capsules, the year on the time capsule is not really a year; it's a code. We got one that is supposed to be opened in the year of 2045, and then when you break down the codex, it really means in the year of light, the brothers the true Masons is gonna get back to planet. That's what it basically displays. So many words.
Yeah, that's deep. So, how does all of this fall into alignment from astrological or cosmic level, considering all the different movements and all the different like alignments and all the different activity that we see with the solar flares, and we see with the eclipses, with the strawberry moons? Like, the solstices. Like, how does all that kind of correlate to what we're seeing and experiencing from the cosmic level, but also here on the planetary level?
It's as above, so below.
I'll show you.
If you know how to read the stars, then all you got to do is watch until you learn how to read how the stars affect what's going on the ground. It's just like everybody know when a full moon happens, some bullshit gonna go down.
And that's real. That's real too.
Up on them full moons.
Yeah,
which made them develop a term called lunacy.
Yeah, because anybody who's ever worked in a hospital can tell you about that. That's real. That really happens on full moons.
On full moons, they double up the staff in the ER. Because somebody finna act a fool because they can't control that feminine energy, especially the men. Because he can't control his masculine energy, his feminine energy make him crash out.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's deep. Shout out to Kelsey LC. Who declares war on their people? Well, we're not their people. The people that declared the war. That's why they did, because we're not their people. Do one of y'all want to?
That's the great illusion right there. Is to make us believe that we part of their victory.
Fact.
We not part of their victory. We not part of America. We not part of none of the stuff they got going on in DC.
Facts.
They just imposing their will on us because they got guns and we don't. That's why they was fighting so hard to ban the right to bear arms. They didn't want to get rid of it for the good old boys. They wanted us to not have a right to bear arms, so they wanted us defenseless. Everywhere where the people who don't have a right to bear arms, the people are defenseless against the tyranny of government. And this is what has kept these suckers from doing a full-fledged lockdown slave system across the land, because there's too many good old boys. Now, there's too many good old boys and homeboys with heavy artillery, but the heavy artillery they got ain't nothing compared to what their military got. Their military got secret weapons for quiet war.
Yeah.
You would think that you wanted to shoot your homeboy because he looked like the enemy, and all the time they planted that thought in your head with a projection module. And then you realize, oh, damn, I shot my homeboy. I ain't mean to do that.
Yeah.
I don't turn on man.
Yeah.
Oh, man, how the hell I shoot my homeboy?
Okay, how does because we when we talk about war, excuse me, we really are at war in a lot of different ways. How do we determine or differentiate the different types of attacks and the different types of elements that are being used with war? And when I say that, I mean because you have people out here who are using sound wave technology or frequency, you know what I'm saying, attacks and strategies. They got mind control. You have these devices, the technology can penetrate the mind and the subconscious. So we're being inundated with so many different levels of attacks, right? How do we know, or how can we protect ourselves from a lot of these attacks that are happening in regards to the different types of
we become susceptible to them when we don't know who that voice is in our head talking. You should know your voice in your head. You should know your mama voice in your head, your daddy voice in your head, your sibling. So when you doing something and you hear a voice in the head, that ain't no familiar voice. That ain't me. Right? This is why they keep saying the knowledge of self.